tell you the start is a little anticlimactic.
Okay.
Because there's no person around. Like, we're live right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, and people are going to start watching. So the lighting looks good.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So, Jim, I know who you are. Tell everyone else who you are.
Okay. Jim Paglia.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
that's all right.
See? This is the problem with live video. There we go. See? Oh, see? We have viewers already. Hi. Okay. Who are you?
I am Jim Paglia.
Jim Paglia. Spelled as Paglia.
That's right. It
How
has a G in it.
I always find you on my phone and I always spell it out. Paglia.
Paglia, that's
Paglia.
right.
Okay.
That's how it is spelled. I am in the brand strategy business.
Brand strategy.
Strategy, yeah,
Yes.
which is not the same as just pure branding.
Yes, okay.
Branding is essentially the use of logos and identity and things like that. That's downstream from what I do.
Okay. You're at the origin.
That's right. I
Yeah,
focus
okay.
on how do you differentiate two entities that appear to do exactly the same thing.
Yes.
So one of them, the example I like to use, is Disney in Orlando. How are they different from Universal? They're right down the road from them, and they both thrive, and they are direct competitors. So the work that I do is to help them identify how they are different in their behaviors and the way they function.
Okay. Okay.
So let me give you a prime example of that. We determined a long, long time ago that Disney is about imagination. Everything is about imagination.
Yeah.
So little kids, they want to be a princess, or they want to be a magic carpet ride.
Yes.
So they will gravitate toward using their imagination. Universal's down the street. Universal focuses on adventure. Everything is about putting a little bit of adrenaline in your life.
Okay.
Little kids don't want to do that so much.
No, I don't want any added.
That's right.
Yes, no added energy, please.
No.
Yeah.
So a little bit older people would like to do that.
Okay.
That's how they differentiate.
Okay.
So then the question becomes, how does that manifest itself? That's the business I'm in. So I'll give you one prime example. This happened while I was at Disney.
Okay.
We were having a meeting about imagination, all this, that. Finished the meeting, went to my room for the night, all that. Come back the next morning, I'm walking back to the meeting room, and I'm looking around, and the people are taking down all the fall decorations, and they are putting up the Christmas decorations all over the park
Okay.
while there are guests there. So I go to the meeting, I said, I thought we were about imagination. And they said, well, we are. And I said, no, we're not. If we were, when the kids went to bed at night, it was fall. When they get up in the morning, it's Christmas.
Yes.
So we have to change our procedures so that we convert the park at night. So when kids show up, it's Christmas.
Yes.
See, that's the business I'm in, is how do you look at your business and make sure that the values that you claim you have are manifesting throughout the whole business.
So let me ask you this. I know, because I know you're not going to brag, so I'll do that on your behalf. You've worked with big companies like Disney and March of Dimes, and just now I'm a small mom and pop shop. What is a brand, and how can you help me as a small business owner with that? You know, comparing the two, how do you assist me in that?
I have a workshop that I conduct that takes a couple of hours, and I walk you through what I refer to as brand hierarchy. There are 4 basic components to a brand hierarchy. The first piece of it is you got to get your values right. So Disney got theirs right. They know they're all about imagination. And when I say values, I'm not talking about trustworthiness, integrity,
yeah,
all that stuff.
Okay.
Because nobody's ever walked in and said, by the way, I'm not trustworthy.
No,
So why do we as business owners...
Yeah, I want to remove integrity from mine. Yeah.
Why do we as business owners feel like we have to tell people we have integrity?
Yeah.
First of all, nobody hears it. You have to be it.
Right.
You have to show
nobody ever trusts. You can trust me.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
No.
Wait, where's my wallet?
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Exactly. So I go through this process where I explain to them how that works. But the first one are your values. You got to get that right. You get that wrong and nothing else works. And then beneath that is the thing that I refer to as your brand vision. And the brand vision is, how is my little business going to change the world? And every single entity can change the world.
Yeah.
Then I go into what is your brand mission, which is somewhat different than your business mission. And I focus on what it is you do, and you say it in such a compelling way that the very first thing that happens is the person to whom you're speaking says, tell me more. If they don't say that, then your mission is wrong.
Then you have failed.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I go into positioning. And positioning is what I described earlier, where you take two entities that appear to do the same thing and you make them look different. You make them feel different. They function differently. So I show people in this workshop how to build those four things. I'm going to give you a great example. I had office space when I lived in Indiana. I loved the space, so I took a lot of space that I didn't need, but I just loved the environment. And the landlord said to me, what are you going to do with all this space? You don't even have all the people to fill it. I said, don't worry about it. I just love this space. He goes, would you like to sublease it? And I said, sure. So he goes, well, there's a guy working in his basement. He needs 2 offices. I'm not going to rent him 2, but you could. So I did. He came in, he and his wife, and they took this. This was 12 years ago. After about a year, he said, you know, I overhear what you do for your clients, and we really need that. And I said, well, it's expensive, Mike. And he goes, that's okay. I'm willing to pay for it. So he did. And we sat down and we mapped out his brand hierarchy. Today, he is one of the 10th largest in America at what he does. Having worked in his basement. He covers the entire upper Midwest. He has offices all across the upper Midwest. He has well over 100 employees, and he and his wife moved permanently to St. Croix last year.
Well, now you're just rubbing it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he would tell you that that would not have happened because he was in a commodity business. It would not have happened if he hadn't understood how to build a brand hierarchy. And so I work with really little companies and hope to make them big. What I don't want to do is to help a company just grow incrementally. I want them to grow exponentially.
And I love that because I think the layman or the small business owner really believes that McDonald's just stumbles upon this image or this, what's in line with their brand, and there are executives around the table voting on this and running through this and to the color shirt they're wearing or whatever the case may be. But to really develop a brand for the small business owner too, to be true to that, it gives them direction and purpose. So how does someone develop this if they, because what happens with me is as a business coach, people come to me and they say, well, I want to service everyone. And I'm like, you know, you can't, who are you? What do you represent? Why is it so important, first of all, for small business owners to separate themselves, to differentiate themselves, to have a brand strategy moving forward?
If you don't have that brand strategy, differentiation, then you're going to compete on price eventually.
Yes.
Who wants to do that?
Yes.
Nobody, right? So you're not going to have a quality piece. Or you're going to say to people, it's my quality, it's my service, and it's my people. Who doesn't say that?
It's the integrity piece.
Exactly. So everybody talks about, I have a better product, I have a better price, I have better people. Yeah, okay. Everybody says it. So you can't really function on that. So you have to know what your brand really represents. And I'll give you an example of how we do this. McDonald's was a client of mine for many years. Wendy's has been a client. Taco Bell has been a client. And my job is to help them separate themselves. So here's one of the things we did, and I don't take responsibility for it. I was only part of this team. But we mounted a camera 2 feet off the ground in the parking lot of a McDonald's restaurant. And we walked that camera through the parking lot, and it showed all the litter that was on the ground, and it showed the curb and all these things. And we walked it into the restaurant 2 feet off the ground, and then we took it to the counter, and we showed what a child sees when they come in. They're our customer. They represent 58% of the purchase decisions. 58% of all purchase decisions at McDonald's start with a child. So why are we ignoring them? It showed the dirty handprints on the door. It showed these little children having to look up into the nostrils of the counter people and being ignored by the counter person who's talking to the adult. So we made a case and we presented it to McDonald's management that said, this is your customer. Why don't you see things from their perspective?
Wow.
Now let's change our behaviors. And they did. So literally simple things like they had an overhang on their counter. They don't have that anymore.
No,
the overhang's gone, so now the kids can actually see clearly. In some restaurants, we actually put a little step in there, and we made it for children only, so they could be at higher level and over the counter. We took the Happy Meals, the point of sale materials, and we put the toys at the bottom of the POP instead of at the top of it, where the parents were seeing it. Now the kids can see it down at their eye level.
That makes sense.
That's how you build a brand, is that you think in terms of how does my customer feel about this? How do they interact with it? What is their experience? That's all a brand is an experience. Starbucks built a massive industry without any advertising. Starbucks did not advertise. They created a better experience. So here's an example that I'll give you as well. What is the core value of Starbucks? Their corporate core value for their brand. You'll never get it.
I wouldn't even begin to guess.
People always focused on coffee and
Yeah.
coffee-related things. Their official corporate vision or value, self-indulgence. They make it okay to self-indulge.
Wow.
So you'll pay $5 for a cup of coffee.
Yeah. Well, okay, that makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
But they go further. Here's their positioning. Most people don't know this stuff, but this is what I do for a living,
Yeah.
so I dig into it. They want to be your third destination. That is their official corporate positioning.
Your third destination.
What's your first one?
Home.
Exactly. What's your second one?
Work.
For you, yes.
Yeah.
If you were a student, it would be?
School.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. And for some people, their third destination is what?
I am running out of destinations. No.
Church.
Church, that's
The
right.
gym.
Yeah. Well, not over here, but yeah.
You
yeah,
see what
yeah.
I'm getting? People have
Yeah.
a lifestyle that is their
That's
third
right.
destination. Starbucks wants to be your third destination.
That is pretty powerful.
But it works. Think of the number of people who leave their house in the morning, stop at Starbucks on the way to work, get their coffee, go to work. 1, 2, 3.
You're right, and I think what baffles me about Starbucks, and then you hit it on the head, is the indulgence, is nobody really complains about the price.
That's right.
I'm from New England, where Dunkin' Donuts is half the price of Starbucks, and they're loyal to that, but everywhere else I've been, they don't mind.
That's correct.
They don't mind at all.
They've learned how to do that. And I can tell you all kinds of stories. These are all in my workshop. I go through all these companies, and I show you how they do it, but more importantly, I have exercises where I get you to do it. And I'll show you how it works for you. And when you walk out of the workshop, you're going to say, okay, I have a much better handle now on what my value needs to be. And typically, I don't want you to have a lot of them. People, they make laundry lists of, this is my value, this. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to do
Yeah,
that.
you can't service.
What is
more.
your core value? What is the thing that if I took it away, you wouldn't exist? What is it?
Yeah.
You know, and if you say it's service, I'm going to say, I'm sorry, it's not.
Well, and yeah, you have to dive deeper than that.
You have to go
it's
much
just a
deeper.
standard.
The other piece is you have to know exactly who your target audience is. If you don't know who that
This is my favorite one, yes.
and you don't know how to address that target audience, you will fail. People want to be all things to all people.
Yes.
That doesn't work.
Well, they think that that's the way to be successful, is especially in my industry, a realtor. Look, we make the same commission on one person as we do another in terms of sales price, but you got to focus your efforts, and the other business will come, but if you focus solely on, or at least an advertising campaign on this group of people, or first time buyers, or second homes, or whatever. But I find that it's really common. But this is hard. This is a really difficult
If it was
thing.
easy, everybody'd be doing it right.
Yeah, that's true.
And if they were, I wouldn't be in business 25 years.
Yeah, that's true.
And let me tell you something. 100% of my work, my clients, are referrals.
Yeah.
I do no marketing. And I never have. In 25 years, every piece of business has come from someone saying, you need to talk to this guy.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great if 100% of your business was only referral?
Yes.
You didn't have to do any marketing because
Yes.
everybody was saying to people, oh, she can help you. Here's why.
And we're getting there, but right now, we got a little battery set. We're getting there, but right now, it's hard to...
It's building that experience.
And yeah, and I think it takes so long. I mean, it takes so much. I mean, we're almost there right now, and I mean, it's taken 5 or 6 years of the branding. And I know. So I have a couple questions, and I know I told you I would only have a few, but I have way more than that.
Well, I hope everybody does.
Well, I know. I'm sure there's some people. Oh, people are saying, "Oh, this is brilliant stuff."
Oh, thank you.
Couple things. So, as you know, I owned a franchise before this.
Sure.
How do some of the small business owners? How can they brand themselves to still be loyal and utilize the franchise for the original reasons they signed the agreement?
Well, there's an element of that I look at very carefully, and it's called borrowed interest.
Borrowed interest.
So
okay.
what you've done is you've signed with an entity where you can be a franchisee, and you are borrowing their interest. But you need to know how to distinguish your own brand apart from that borrowed interest.
Yes.
So I'll give you a prime example. I do a lot in soccer. I'm very active in soccer all over the world.
Yeah.
Soccer clubs want to tell people, oh, we wear Adidas, or we wear Nike.
Yeah.
That's borrowed interest.
Yeah.
That doesn't help your club. That doesn't help develop your brand. It just says we wear certain uniform, but it's all borrowed. So how would you win that fight if nobody cared what uniform you wore?
Yeah.
How would that be your club? So that's what I look at, is how do I separate the two? And there are some businesses that I've seen, particularly in this area, where they've understood that, it's one example, they might be better part of the community. They have really invested in developing a community presence. That's one way to separate yourself from the borrowed interest. But there is good value in the borrowed interest. You want their name recognition, you want their policies, procedures, and practices. You want all of that, but it's not enough to say, I'm one of these.
Yeah.
You know, an example I'll use is State Farm. Okay, so you're a State Farm agent. Big deal. What does that mean to me unless all I want is State Farm?
Yeah.
If I want something more, then you're going to have to represent it.
Well, and I think a shout out to one of my favorite people, Jimmy Bridges.
That's exactly who I was thinking of.
I know. And one of the things I love most about Jimmy is he is who he is. I gotta tell you, if something happened to Jimmy, I would go elsewhere. I'm not loyal to State Farm, I'm loyal to Jimmy. And I think really people need to remember that. So there is a way to create a brand behind the franchise.
It's about relationships.
Yes.
It's your relationship with State Farm, or is it with Jimmy?
It's with Jimmy.
It's with Jimmy.
Yes.
And if Jimmy decided to switch brands,
I would
switch
follow.
with him.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is exactly what happened with your customers.
You're right. Yes, that is.
They came with you.
Bring it full circle.
Yeah.
Yes.
They bring it to where you go. So that's important. But I can tell you, it doesn't always have to be that.
Yeah.
So I owned a big agency in Chicago, big marketing firm. And I sold my interest to my partner because I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to do this kind of work. And everybody said, are you going to take all your customers with you? And we had a lot of big name customers. And I said, no, I'm not taking any of them because I don't want to be their ad agency. I want to focus on the strategic aspect of it.
Yes.
And so every client I got was brand new.
Yeah.
Every one of them, but it was all by referral. And that's what you really want to do, is build the relationships where people say, this is the place to go, this is the thing to do. And once they get that, once they buy into, okay, my trust is in this individual or some individual within the operation, everything's golden.
Yeah.
That's really the issues. How do I build a relationship through experiences? People don't get that. They tend to want to fall back on, well, I have a better product. Really? Okay.
Yeah, but how do you know if nobody's going to buy it? It's difficult to connect that, and I think that's like you're saying, I think that's the easy way out.
It is, yeah.
So one thing that, and I know we didn't talk about this, but I'm going to put you on the spot. I guess the whole video is kind of on the spot.
On the spot, yeah.
We were talking about names.
Yes.
And you had come up with a few names for a company that you're part of that we don't need to get into, but I've been thinking about that since we met, and I know a lot of realtors are developing teams, and I know a lot of people out there are itching to start their own business, no matter what it is, and I think there's a block for people just creating names out of thin air, and they just think the name will just magically come to them. But from what I gathered is there's an actual exercise that you can go through to come up with a name.
That's right. And I use one. I have a very rigid discipline that I go through, a series of things to identify names, either of companies or products. Yeah. And I've named hundreds of things in my career. That's not the front end of what I do. That's the result of what I do. And a lot of the clients I have, some of them have been around a long time, 60, 70, 80 years, and we will go through the front end strategic process and they'll say, our name doesn't work anymore, does it? And I'll say, no, it really doesn't. And they'll say, well, now we need to come up with a new name or a new logo. And I have a process to do that, and it's pretty good.
Yeah.
People will look at it, and it's very hard to argue with the outcomes of that. But I will also say to you that if somebody had come up to you and said Google 20 years ago, would that have been an impressive name to you?
Oh, I would have said, God bless you.
Yes, exactly. There you go. There you go. But today, because of the experience that people have had, that brand has meaning.
Yeah.
How do you find the meaning that you put behind a name?
Well, now it's a verb.
Exactly. I'm going to go Google this.
Well, and the same thing with Uber. I'll just Uber it over there.
So think about Uber. You just talked about it took you 5 or 6 years to build your business.
Yeah.
Do you think it's taken Uber that long to develop a worldwide brand? They've done it in under 5 years.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And what have they done? They did it because the most important part of a brand is to be disruptive in the marketplace.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How do I disrupt it? It doesn't mean doing it in a negative way. It's not a combative way. It's I want to be in the marketplace in a way that no one has ever seen before.
Yeah.
And Uber did that. And what did they do? They've crippled the taxi business.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
They've crippled the taxi business.
That's a whole other conversation. But yeah.
But how quickly did they do it?
I mean, it seemed like it was overnight. And I'm sure for the guys at Uber, it didn't feel like overnight. But really, when we look at, we take a step back and say,
for us,
5 years,
as a consumer, it's brand new to us.
Yes, exactly. But, in such a short time, usually it takes companies a lot longer to get, but just the world is so different now.
But I travel all over the world.
I know.
And I can use Uber almost anywhere.
Yes.
Anywhere.
No, that is true.
There are parts of the Middle East where I couldn't get it,
yeah.
but you can get it almost anywhere.
That's awesome.
And I'm thinking, okay, how do they do that in such a short period of time? They created a more desirable experience.
Yes.
That's part of my role, is to help people define what is the most desirable experience. I'm going to give you another example like that. Okay. And by the way, brand awareness should never be confused with brand affinity. The fact that I know your brand does not mean I subscribe to it.
Ah, okay.
Who are the 2 most famous attorneys in America right now? Rudy Giuliani and Mike Avenatti. Do you subscribe to either one of them?
No comment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. See, so they have brand awareness, but not a whole lot of brand affinity, either one of them. They both have audiences.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that issue of brand awareness should never, ever be confused with affinity. I go through that process with people all the time. I might know who you are, doesn't mean I subscribe to you.
Yeah.
I want brand affinity. So there are entities. Have you ever heard of Barnum and Bailey? Ringling Brothers?
Yes.
The most famous circus in the world.
Yes.
Bankrupt, out of business, doesn't exist anymore.
Really?
Went out of business last year. Have you ever heard of Cirque du Soleil?
Yes.
Okay, Cirque du Soleil is the biggest circus in the world. Did you know that Cirque du Soleil has traveling circuses that go all over the world, and they have 8 permanent circuses on the Las Vegas Strip alone? All the major casinos have a Cirque du Soleil show.
And that's where I've seen them, yes.
Right, okay. You know what the tickets used to cost at Barnum and Bailey? $10.
Yeah.
And they couldn't sell them. Do you know what the average ticket price is in Cirque du Soleil?
Unfortunately, I do.
Yeah.
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 The cheapest ticket I think you can get today in Las Vegas is $85.
Yes, that sounds about right.
And they go up to about $125, $130.
Oh, they go up higher than that.
And they sell
Unfortunately,
them out.
I know. Yes.
They sell them out.
Yeah.
But would it surprise you to learn that almost 40% of their revenue has nothing to do with ticket sales? They sell no merchandise inside the facility. It's in a separate retail area, and it's almost 40% of their total revenue is from that merchandise store.
Really?
Yes. You see how a brand has to take hold? Now, what is it that people buy? They buy the original music. They buy the apparel. They buy trinkets. But if you went into a Barnum and Bailey circus, they were selling garbage up and down the aisles all the time, and nobody wanted a $12 glow-in-the-dark necklace.
The bottom of my car.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So everybody knows Barnum and Bailey.
Yeah.
But it's not worth anything to anybody.
Yes.
Here's the point. In my workshop, I go through how they did that.
Yes.
How did Cirque du Soleil figure out what people really wanted, and how did they manifest it? And oh, by the way, their operation is much, much less expensive to operate than Barnum and Bailey. Much less expensive.
Really?
Yeah. The key to having a great brand is to offer something in the marketplace that people really, really didn't know they wanted, but they do.
That's key. Yeah.
And do it cheaper, but charge more.
Yeah.
And that's the business I'm in. Is how do you figure out what they really, really want?
Yeah.
Figure out how to do it for less money, but sell it to them for more. No one ever asks me, ever, what's your fee? It never comes up.
Well, I will say one of my most favorite people on the planet, Joanna, my real estate coach from years ago, a dear, dear friend, has always taught me, cost is only an issue in the absence of value. And
great.
People don't complain about how much a Maserati costs.
That's right.
They don't. They're not going to say, "Oh, I got to make this payment." You got it for a reason.
Right.
So, okay. The other thing I want to ask is, how does someone get started? No matter how big they are, how small they are, if they've been in business 20 years or they haven't even filed the LLC yet.
Mm-hmm.
How do they get started, and why is it so important to get started as soon as possible?
Well, I just got off the phone with a client earlier today where she's starting a new business, and I've known her for a long time, and she's been in a very successful business, and she wants to go in another direction.
Yeah.
And she said to me, "So what do you think of this, and what do you think of that?" And I said, "Stop. Put something down on paper. You don't even have to show it to me, but frame something that you know that you can live within, that is different from what else is in the marketplace." Start there, because right now you're going into so many what ifs that you're not going to have anything meaningful.
Yeah.
Be definitive. Target a very specific audience, very, very narrow audience, as narrow as you can make it.
Yeah.
The smallest possible audience you can make, because that'll be more specific, like a Maserati buyer.
Yeah. Yes.
Be that specific. And then what you do is you radiate out from them to other people in the marketplace with an indirect message that relates to the Maserati owner. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a big issue. You need to start with that. Who is it that is the most likely to be my target audience? I'll give you another quick example. I started a symphony orchestra in Chicago over 30 years ago. I'd never been to a symphony concert in my life. It is one of the most successful orchestras in America today. It's the only one that actually makes money from its operations and not from its endowment. Most orchestras live off their endowments. We live off our operations, okay? I didn't know anything about music, but I knew how to build an organization, and we did it very successfully. But I also knew who our target audience was.
Yeah.
Okay, and here is the secret. When I talked to the other board members, I asked them, with whom do we compete? And they started naming the 18 other orchestras in Chicago. I said to them, that's ridiculous. We only play on Monday nights. We compete with Monday Night Football.
Oh, and they couldn't see that.
They couldn't see it.
Yeah.
I said, here's my option. There's other orchestras. They don't play on Monday night. We do.
Yeah.
None of them play on Monday night. How do we get somebody to get off their couch watching Monday Night Football and show up at our orchestra hall events?
Yeah.
And then more importantly, I want them to leave the hall differently than they normally would. And that is a function of the experience that I create. So instead of walking out with their heads down like they've just left Mass, which is the way most people leave orchestras, I want them to walk out like it's the first time they've ever seen Star Wars. They'll be energized. They'll be talking to the people around them.
That was amazing. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what we create. Almost every performance is sold out.
Yeah.
And who would think that in today's economy that symphony orchestras are selling out?
Yeah.
Chicago Tribune called it the hippest orchestra in America.
Nice.
It gets better than that. Chicago, the city of Chicago, gave them a $100,000 award as the single most innovative entity in the city of Chicago. Not orchestras, not arts, all entities in Chicago, they were named the most innovative in the entire city.
Wow.
The MacArthur Foundation gave them a $1 million unrestricted grant to continue to build their brand.
Wow.
You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, yeah.
And you've never heard of them.
Yeah.
They have no brand awareness. They just have affinity.
Exactly. And I think that's key, and people need to understand the difference. So my next question is, how are you going to teach these people?
We're going to do a workshop.
Okay.
And I'm grateful that Cassandra and Company is sponsoring it.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. We're going to do it on April 17th in Lantana at Lantana Golf Club.
Okay.
It starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. We will serve a buffet breakfast.
Okay, good.
Okay?
Okay, good.
You get
Coffee.
a breakfast.
You'll have coffee.
And a full breakfast,
Okay.
buffet breakfast. We'll eat for the first half hour or so, do a little networking. And then around 8:30, we'll start the program.
Okay.
And that'll go till about 10 o'clock. And I will walk you through a bunch of very fun and very engaging and I think very insightful exercises where the audience really gets involved. It's not me just lecturing about things. It's let's do this and let's see what happens. So as an example, I'm going to distribute crayons and construction paper. Okay. And I'm going to ask the audience to draw their responses to 3 very personal questions.
Okay.
And actually there may be 4. It changes depending on the audience, 3, 4, sometimes 5. I'm going to ask you to draw responses to very specific questions to which I should never know the answer.
Okay.
But then you're going to share.
Sounds like a magic trick.
It's going to sound like that? Wait, it gets worse.
Okay,
Better.
great.
Here's what happens in the end.
Okay.
They're going to share their drawings with the other people in the room because it's a communications exercise. I want them to demonstrate how they're communicating.
I see.
But here's what's going to happen. Before I see any of the drawings or they share them with the audience, I'm going to have everybody stand up.
Okay.
And you can test me on this. I've been doing it for 20 years, 25 years now. I'm going to tell people what they've drawn without ever having looked at their drawings. And if I get it right, you have to sit down. And I promise you, I've done this in audiences of 1,000, I've done it in audiences of 10. I promise you, everybody in the room will sit down at some point, except maybe 1 or 2 people. And I don't care if there's 1,000 people in the room. I will name 8 or 9 things, and every single person will have to sit down. And what does that demonstrate? It demonstrates that we haven't yet figured out how to communicate effectively.
Yeah. Well, we knew that, but yeah.
I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to show you how you can break through that, and you're going to be able to articulate things in ways that have meaning to people and aren't just cliches.
Okay.
So that's one of the exercises. I have a whole bunch of them. And there are a couple others that people, as they come back and they say, okay, yeah, that was, wow, that was really cool and very entertaining, but I learned something from it. And that's the issue, is what can you take away?
Yes, and that's going to be my next question. So when I walk away from this workshop, what should I be able to do?
You should have a pretty good understanding of how to approach your brand hierarchy. Where do I start developing my value? What is it? What is my core value? Sometimes you're going to need some help to refine that because we tend not to know what we don't know. You'll have a pretty good handle on your vision, and that surprises people because the vision has to be completely unattainable. It has to be completely unachievable. If you can do it, it's a mission.
Oh, I see. Okay.
All right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I go through that process with people to help them articulate, if I had it, what would it be? And so we go through that process. The mission, people, they find that pretty easy to get to. The wording needs to be refined. It needs to be distinctive. Yeah. So I'll help them better understand how to make their language more distinctive.
Okay.
The positioning is the hard part. That's the part you almost never can do alone. That's where I come in and I can help you do that. But if you never get to that, having the other 3 pieces moves you way ahead of the marketplace. And I can give you all kinds of stories of people who have said, oh my gosh, like the guy that was working in his basement, and he's not anymore.
Yeah.
And now he's got this massive enterprise, but it was always their dream to move to an island, and so they bought a home in St. Croix last year. This year, they built a much nicer home right next door to it, and they're keeping both houses.
Nice.
And they flew both of their Teslas down there.
Yeah, oh, okay.
And
nice.
They commute back and forth during the week when they feel like it. They've built a phenomenal lifestyle.
Good.
But it can be done. And these people say, well, I don't think it applies to me because I have a small business. Okay, here's an example I used with McDonald's owner-operator years ago. Stick with your thinking, and you can drive it right down to where you can manage it.
Yeah. Well, and I think people are always, it's hard for me to understand that because people often go, well, why me? And I always say, why not me? There's people out there who are dumber and smarter and fatter and skinnier, and they're doing it. They're figuring it out. And I think having a clear idea of what you want, which can be very daunting.
And who you want to appeal to.
Yes, exactly.
Put those 2 things together, and it almost always works.
Yes.
So I'm going to give you one more quick example.
Okay.
These guys were in business for over 10 years. Okay. They sold a machine that launched soccer balls.
Okay.
And this machine would launch a soccer ball 75 miles an hour at over 75 yards. It could curve, dip. You could set it to do anything you wanted to do. Anything a human being could do, they could make that ball do, and they would hit the same space every single time. So it was great for training.
Yeah.
If you wanted to practice corner kicks or things that you wanted to repeat, you could set the machine up to do it. And they were selling that machine for over 10 years under a brand name.
Yeah.
And I saw it, and the owner said, what do you think? And I said, okay, I'm a soccer guy. Yeah. That's interesting, but I don't really care about the machine. I care about the role technology will play in soccer. And he goes, oh, great, you're the first person who gets why I did this. So I started working with him. We completely rebranded the company from top to bottom. We don't sell the machines now.
Okay.
Because the machines were selling for $5,000 and $10,000, 2 different models. Once you bought your machine, why'd you need me anymore?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
So instead, I call on the biggest soccer clubs in the world to sell them the data we can collect from the machines, and that costs you $1 million a year, and we'll give you the machines.
Oh my gosh. See,
he was working out of his garage in Seattle.
And it's kind of like Shark Tank, where they walk in and the sharks are completely drawn to a separate idea, and he's like, no, I'm here for my grilled cheese sandwich maker. And you're like, no, so.
But this guy was an engineer, and what he understood were machines.
Yes.
He knew how to engineer machines. And I kept saying, you're selling the wrong part of the animal.
Yes.
Sell the data.
Yeah.
And we'd go in to see the biggest soccer clubs in the world, and they go, oh my gosh, I need that data.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have a machine that can give you that.
Yeah.
Okay, how much is the machine? Don't worry about the machine.
Yeah.
Sign a contract for the data, and I'll give you the machines.
Oh my gosh. He must have loved that. Did it take him a while to come around?
I don't think he's fully come around. He's still at the point where he wants to keep reinventing the machine.
Of course.
Because that's what he knows.
You gotta love engineers. Yeah.
And by the way, what I learned working with engineers is it's never done. They never know when to stop. So I literally had to go in and say to him, no, this is version 1, you're done. No more. And he goes, but I can get it to do this. I said, stop. That'll be version 1.2 or 2.0, but we're selling what we have.
Yeah.
Because the market wants this. And when you get a better something, then we'll sell him that. And maybe we'll charge him $1.5 million for that one.
There you go.
So he now understands that. And this is very self-serving, but he asked me to become the CEO of the company.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he said, quit what you're doing and run our company. And as much as I love soccer, I love what I do.
Yeah.
I love sitting down with a business owner and saying, let's make this something special.
Yeah, let's transform this.
Yeah.
It's just the way people look at it.
Let's get you out of the spot where you have to worry every day from 9 to 5 or whatever your 9 to whatever your hours are, because I'm a small business owner, but nobody knows that.
Yeah.
I work with IBM and McDonald's and Disney, people all over the world. They don't know, they don't care that I'm a small business. What they care about is I create big impact.
Yeah.
And so you're in the same boat. You're creating big impact for people. It's meaningful. It's one of the largest investments they'll ever make in their life is to buy a house. So you create that kind of impact. And that's what I'm getting at is every business in the world can have that kind of impact if they choose to. And if they have a meaningful brand, not just a brand name, not just identity. So, and I'm obviously very passionate about it. I love to do it. But I've also recognized, I have a friend who started a business when he was in college. He and his buddies have a floral business. They do indoor decor for office buildings. So if you walk into the lobby of a big office building, you'll see flowers and rocks and waterscape and things like that. That's what they do. Okay. They had 800 clients in downtown Chicago alone. These 3 guys, they started it in college and it was doing very, very well. He said to me, I think we need to rebrand. So we sat down to talk about it, and I did realize they were going about it. They could be doing things much differently, and I started to map that up. And then I said to him, Ed, you don't really want to be in this business. And he said, well, sure I do. I'm making a lot. I said, no, you don't. I can tell by the way we've been interacting. So part of what we did was not only rebrand the business, but convinced his partners to buy him out. So they bought into a whole new brand, and he got out. And he's now in financial planning, which is what he always wanted to do.
If your heart is in financial planning, you're a special kind of person.
And he is. He truly is. And it was such a revelation. Yeah. But it's not like I work any magic. It's I get in there, I understand what drives you and what drives the brand. And when I got into that, I said, Ed, this is not where you want to be. Yeah. And he goes, you're right. I really don't. What do we do about it? I said, first we fix it. Yeah. Then we get your partners to buy it all. Then you go about doing what you really want to do. And today, he's in financial planning. Happy. Yeah, and that's all I care about is be in the business you belong in and serve the people that most need what you do.
So let me ask you this, and we'll cut it off because I know I've kept you for a while. The people who are not able to come to the workshop, and I'll post the workshop information on this page and all the others, what can they do? Can they reach out to you?
Sure. there's two options. They can reach out to me directly. I'm happy to talk with them.
Great.
And I'm doing other workshops around the country.
Oh,
so
perfect.
if
Okay.
they're in a part of the country where I'm not, let's see if we can get one of them scheduled there. Yeah. But I know I'll be doing one in Chicago. I'll do one in Atlanta. I'll do one in Washington, D.C.
Okay,
Those
awesome.
are already in place. But I don't have any of the others scheduled yet. And,
okay, awesome.
And so I'm open to going into other markets as well. But I'm happy to talk to people one-on-one and say, let's talk about your business. That's free.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. We're signing off. If you have any questions for Jim Paglia, not Paglia,
Thank you.
spelled Paglia, please reach out. He is, as you can see, a wealth of knowledge. And find your brand. Find who you are. Find who you can help.
Let me give them an email address.
Okay, go for it.
Jim@brandsthatstand.com. Brands, BRANDS, THATSTAND.com.
Awesome. Well, I will see everyone later. I hope you have a great, I don't even know what day is it.
Tuesday. Thank you all for participating.
Okay, we'll see you later. And if you have any questions, let us know. Bye.